Hello, and welcome to our continuing series of Better Business interviews. Better businesses are those that are driven by purpose to use business as a force for good, for positive change, for people and planet. Throughout this series, we are chatting with key people in these organisations and finding out why they do what they do.
This week, I've been joined by James Whitfield and Sean Sykes from Briiv. Now, Briiv bring together ideas, data, design, sustainability and innovation to re-engineer consumer goods to be more sustainable. And they are the people behind Briiv, which we will get to in a moment. James is managing director and co-founder of Briiv, and Sean is a director and also a co-founder of Briiv. But I still don't think I've got the whole set. Both my guests, by what I've seen, have a huge amount of experience in product design, and I've been told by a well-informed person will rabbit on about eco issues all day if you let them. Just the kind of guests I like. Welcome to the show, James and Sean.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, hi there.
So the elephant in the room question, which I like to ask, is, and I've hinted to it, isn't two co-founders enough?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not the first business that we've run. Me and Sean have known each other since uni, really. That's where we met. And we originally started a design consultancy many years ago.
Is it like 2011?
Yeah.
Wow, 10 years.
So we ran that for 4 years or so.
Yeah.
And then we started getting into e-commerce and running our own e-commerce stores. Along the way, we were meeting really interesting people and really talented people as well. And then about a year and a half ago, we worked with Mike and Laura, who are the other partners, as well as Ryan. And we were working with them, and we just felt this really great connection of bringing together sort of great new product ideas that don't necessarily get the time of day, that no one really sees them ever, and their marketing background and this kind of thing. So we came together as a team. We thought, well, should we just start a company and see how it goes from there? So that's the 5 members of Briiv. It was sort of quite off the cuff, really. But our aim is to sort of take on redesigning, re-engineering consumer goods.
Yes. Yeah. So why did you come to that conclusion as a purpose for your business? The 5 of you just went, okay, consumer goods is the hit, or was the ideas bubbling under when you met?
Yeah. So I think well, when we were designing products for other people, we would work on around 300 products a year. So we got quite a broad knowledge base and a broad experience. We thought when we originally started, we had a look at a few different products, and we were looking. Actually, Briiv wasn't the first one, but it was just the best one kind of thing. But we really wanted to, with Briiv in particular, and the reason we chose that one and went forward with it is we were trying to create a product that was obviously sustainable at its core, but something that generally creates sort of waste, something we could cut waste out of the general way of doing things, like the filters, for instance. So we could cut that waste element, but also something that was also good for people's health. So it had an added benefit to people as well. So it was a useful product that wasn't just something that, because loads of people are doing biodegradable cups and the disposable market. There's a lot of people operating in that, but no one's really looking at consumer goods and electronic products specifically, and how to make those greener, because it's a hard thing to do. So we thought we want to try and see what we can do there. And it was a bit of an experiment to see what the public perception would be like, and a bit of a learning experience for us to see how you actually go about designing a fully green product from the ground up without any compromise, kind of thing.
Yeah, we'll come back to the design process in a bit, I think. So just so we're clear to our listeners, what is Briiv? And to spell it, it's Briiv, but said Briiv, as in breathe, presumably. So what is Briiv?
So essentially, it is an air purification machine. So traditional air purifiers will have like a replacement filter that goes inside them, and they've got like a fan element to it. So it'll draw air through the filter and then push it out of the machine and remove all the particulate matter. So with Briiv, we've gone for a fully biodegradable system. So whereas you typically replace the filter every 3 to 6 months, and that filter is made of a combination of cards, plastics, adhesives, and sometimes metals, all bonded together to create this solid housing, which then will just go straight to landfill. And that because of the makeup of that, it will stay in landfill off gas and just be a general nuisance for many hundreds and probably thousands of years.
Yeah.
So we really wanted to tackle that, and so Briiv has we've stripped out all of the plastics, all of the nasty stuff, and we're using moss as the first stage filter to remove like pet dander and that kind of thing, and then we're using coconut fibers that gets it even further down, so slightly larger and slightly smaller particles, and then we're getting down to the main filter, which is in the housing, which removes all of the really, really small particles, and then the air is pushed out of the machine nice and clear.
I was fascinating. You've mentioned moss and coconut, and of course, if anybody goes to have a look, and we'll have links on our show page at the device itself, put in a nice shapely dome, a nice modern shaped dome, not a old-fashioned clock dome, as you know. And the first thing you see is the moss, presumably, and the coconut layer. But from looking at your site and your video, I see hemp and wool and carbon, and then down to the nanofibers as well. What part of dark magic did you use to come up with that combination of stuff to filter air?
It was a long process of trial and error. I think the filters for Briiv we started really early on in 2019. We were working on that, and originally it was going to be living moss. So that was the goal for us originally, to have it be alive.
Yeah.
But it turned out, I mean, we tried for months and months and months, but it would just, the act of drawing air past it constantly, it's just not what moss wants to do. It's not what really any plant wants to do.
It wants to be in like a dark, dingy, moist.
Yeah. So it would just keep killing it on, continuously. So it was a great dream. And so we just but we really liked the idea of using the moss, and we were in contact with some people that made living walls just through the research that we were doing at the time.
Yeah.
And they sort of said, because it's a lichen now, but it's called reindeer moss. So, but
okay, what's in a name, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it has the same microstructure that basically all pre-filters or all air pre-filters are based upon. So it's just the micro structure that everything gets captured in as the air passes through it, basically. This is the simplest way to describe it. And then we just went on at the same time we were just testing so many different fabrics, materials. I think we ran through 120 different types of like coconut fabrics and bamboo fabrics and everything you can imagine. To see and testing it and seeing how much particulate it removed and how efficient it would be at doing that at the same time. So it was just a lot of trial and error, really.
Oh, fair enough. And I mean, wool. When I saw wool in there, I've recently become very impressed with wool. Wool packaging. I didn't realise it didn't burn at standard air temperature. You have to add oxygen for it to burn, and it's just a brilliant product. Anyway, I'm kind of off. My little rant about wool. I'll wave the flag, my woolen flag. You mentioned there's a housing inside, but the whole thing is biodegradable.
Yeah, so we wanted to make it not just so it wasn't just the filters that were biodegradable, but also the plastic housing and the whole thing it's made out of. So we opted for a plastic that's actually made from elephant grass, which means it's grown on non-arable land, so it doesn't compete with like conventional bioplastics, which can be made like they're grown from pulls nutrients away from.
Oh right, yeah.
That kind of thing. So elephant grass is plastics are quite a new concept, but it also acts as like a carbon sink. So sort of the plant's grown, it's cut down, it's turned into like this material that then captures it and sequesters it away for a little while, or permanently if you keep the unit permanently. The whole goal really was because we know from years of designing products how they are handled in the real world. So with all the goodwill in the world, the circular economy and the circular process, we're not there yet with it. So products get left in warehouses for years and then just go to landfill because they don't get sold. They will, at the end of their life, people will just throw them in the landfill because they're too lazy to return them to where they need to be. They will end up in other countries as a part of like a recycling scheme and incinerated and that kind of thing. So we felt it was really important that the actual unit didn't use plastics, and we really tried to push because I know we used glass in the top part, and that's mainly because that's one of the very few materials that can be unlimitedly recycled. It's one of the true recyclable materials available to us. So we were very strict on what we put in it and what we didn't. The problems we have encountered along the way have been things like with electronics, the PCBs, because it's amazing. Like the technology just doesn't exist yet. We were amazed. We were trying to find there must be something better than this. It's like
like an eco cable or something.
It just doesn't exist. So it's one of the things we've started doing now as well. Is we invest a lot of what we make into R&D projects and working with universities to try and push new materials and try and tackle these problems.
Yeah, I mean, there's a heavy regulatory issue there, isn't there? Because electrical devices end up having to use virgin plastic, for example, in the plug housings and the cablings, because you're not permitted under the standards to use anything else. There's nothing else certified to that usage, and that's what you found as well.
It's interesting because it's not necessarily, it just has to perform to a certain level. And what we generally find is you go to a manufacturer and you say, right, we're going to use this other material, and they're like, you don't want to use that, you want to use this. But it's just them just being lazy most of the time.
Quote a ridiculous minimum order quantity.
So I think a lot
we definitely feel your pain on that thing. So I mean, staying with the filters just briefly, because I'm fascinated about this. When you're done with a filter, how long does a filter last on average?
So they're designed to work together. So the top two filters, which is the moss and the coconut layer, they're designed to make the sort of matrix filter lower down last longer. So the top ones will last a year. So that's your
right.
And then the really fine one just needs changing every 3 months.
Okay, and when I'm done with this fine filter and the top filter even, I bung them in my compost.
You can bung the top two in the compost, because we've combined. What we ended up doing, we changed the materials a little bit in the finer layer just to make it a bit more efficient. And actually, it turned out that combining two together, it cuts down like the packaging, and it cuts down a whole other bunch of materials. So it was odd that it actually made it greener, even though it was like combining two things we normally trying to avoid. But because it combines like an activated charcoal layer, we say it's not great to put that in your compost bin because it will change the pH level because it's activated carbon. So yes, it might mess up your compost. So that one's just best to like go into the municipal waste kind of thing.
Okay, but in that state, it will probably degrade or probably be incinerated. I'm in Cornwall. We've got an incinerator and no landfills anymore, which sounds good, but I'm not.
Yeah.
It's one of those things you kind of and I think all of it's about balance, isn't it? You say I've spoken to somebody else to say on balance, I did all I could with regards to my packaging for food was one of the ones we talked about. When it came down to it, plastic is actually quite good in places, especially in food products. And there are elements that sometimes you have to use because there is nothing better, and you would end up having a hefty weight or difficult recycling, which uses energy. If you've got metal or glass, it takes a lot to recycle glass. I know it's ultimately recyclable. You have to heat it to an incredibly high temperature, and that takes energy. And it's just this huge piece of balance in that circular economy, which you mentioned. One more question on the filter. Because I really, when I was looking through your site, I kind of went, I've got a stack of questions here. What is HEPA?
Oh yeah, so there's a lot of misunderstanding about what HEPA is.
Yeah.
Because actually, it's loads of people seem to think it stands for like high efficiency air removal, these kind of things. But it's actually a brand name from the 60s when it was created.
Right.
And it doesn't actually mean a lot anymore. It's because it's not the brand expired. There's no IP on it anymore, so everyone can write HEPA on their products, kind of thing. So it actually is given rise to loads of people calling things HEPA-like, HEPA standard, HEPA. What was the other ones like? HEPA, and then you've got all the different grades of various HEPA filters, but they don't actually mean a great deal anymore.
Oh, that's brilliant. So I don't think I picked up HEPA from your site. I think it was from a review of your products. I was looking through some of the reviews that have been done, which have been very positive indeed. I haven't seen one, so I haven't had the pleasure of being able to sit in an air filtered environment. How far does it go then? Ignoring the fact that HEPA is a brand name and it means nothing. Yeah. So how far can your filter go?
I mean, that's the thing. Although it is an expired brand name, it does have a bunch of tests associated with it. So in general, HEPA filters, and I'm just going to call them, they're just high efficiency air filters. Basically, they filter 99.9% of all the particulates that pass through them.
Down to like 2.5 microns, isn't it?
Yeah. So there is limits to what it will operate on. And ours gets pretty close. Ours is like 98%. So
okay, so close to that standard, or the 99 would be the gold standard sort of thing. But would I mean, thinking of this more generically now and getting away from the technology bit, would I perceive I've never had an air filter. I'm probably sitting in a radon encrusted cellar in Lostwithiel. you can see granite. If you're looking on the video, you can see granite stones everywhere. The whole place is made of granite. Would I perceive, if I have one of these on my desk, would I perceive a difference, or am I just doing it on trust?
You would notice less, as sort of the sun comes out and it shines through the room, and you see all the little bits of dust floating around. You would notice less of that. It's one of those things that it's always difficult to show it working, really, unless you've got an air filter, not an air filter,
a test unit.
Yeah, an air quality monitor as well.
Yeah.
But in general, I mean, if you had like asthma or
allergies,
allergies or sensitive to pollen and these kind of things, you really notice the difference with an air purifier. And I think people that definitely have hay fever,
and it does build up over time. So if you continue to use it, then your health would improve. Really.
There is quite a lot of studies on clean air while you're sleeping and these kind of things, which isn't necessarily, that's not something that we've published or anything. It's just studies that are sort of available. So
okay, now of course air quality is of significant concern. And in a little while, I'm going to play fact or fake with you, and air quality is the subject at hand, funnily enough. So the final stat before that I read, or you put on your site, is that the one Briiv in your house is equivalent to having 3,043 medium-sized houseplants. I'm kind of intrigued. How did you work that out? Is there a test house somewhere with 3,044 plants, and you go, "Oh, that beats a Briiv"?
Someone actually did a scientific report, didn't they? And they calculated the efficiency of a single medium houseplant, and then we cross-referenced it with how much air our unit cleans, and it equated to 3,042 plants.
Because plants, it turns out, they're really good at oxygenating and things like that. But when it comes to dust removal, they're not great at it.
They're not great.
No.
They're brilliant on the side of roads as well, aren't they? I didn't realise how important it was for us to have roadside vegetation to consume all of that pollution that we're still churning out from our cars, regardless of its unleaded nature or such like.
And that's due to there's wind pushing the air past the plants, but that doesn't happen in a house. So
no, and that's why you need to do the sucking action through the filter. Gotcha. So, looking back at you two, if you and I and even your other three compadres in the company, we're in a pub. Well, we'd have to be in a garden at the moment, wouldn't we? We're in a pub garden, and lovely sunshine, and supping on well, insert drink of your choice, sitting 2 meters apart, of course. What would be your eco conversation then? What would you be talking about in the pub right now? I'm kind of watering a little bit because I fancy a pint.
Ooh, that does sound good.
I mean, we normally end up just talking about what more we can be doing, as a company, as a group, with our skill sets of what other areas we can apply it to, and where else we could have like a meaningful impact, because there's not really any limit to what we can design and the products that we can work on. It's just working on the stuff that's going to have the most impact and matter the most to people, really. That's generally what we chat about.
Okay, and well, that's fine. Is there anything that's getting your goat at the moment? There's a lot going on in the world. I mean, we've got G7 coming down here in July, where and poor old St Ives and the surrounding areas currently having its manholes welded down and all sorts of security measures put in place. And we got COP26 arriving in Glasgow this year, and there's a lot going on. What with you being more innovative and sustainable, what more do you think we should be doing? Is the government working hard enough? I know I'm getting a bit political here, but I'm kind of intrigued as to what people would talk about when they're in such an innovative company like yourself, and what's really kind of getting their goat and getting their creative juices flowing.
Yeah, I mean, for us at the minute, what's really exciting is carbon sequestration. So that's kind of what we're really, because it's like the ultimate goal, but I mean, it's something we've been doing some research on as well. But it's something that is really misunderstood, and the government is offering, very little in the way of actual meaningful support. And I don't know if it's just because they don't quite understand what needs to be done, or if it's just that I don't know how to describe it. There's a lot of misinformation around the whole thing, around like carbon sequestration as well, even with companies already doing it, and how they're not necessarily being effective at it, but they are being promoted as like the market leaders, and we should be doing more of this kind of thing. So it's a really interesting area, and it's not, I don't think it's intentionally being greenwashed as such, but it's very much being misunderstood as a field.
Well, it is difficult, isn't it? It's an interesting subject which we've commented on a number of times, because the offsetting approach that many companies have to turn to, and I don't. Anybody that has done offsetting, planting trees, planting trees and getting involved in those form of wildlife based or plant based ecology improvements are all very worthy. But a tree will capture a ton in its lifetime, but that's its whole lifetime. And people are planting a tree thinking they covered a ton, and actually it's a 50% chance it'll be dead in a year before it starts sequestering. It takes 20 years before it starts in that pathway anyway. So you end up with this, I'm basically starting to sequester a ton of carbon in 20 years time when I plant a tree. What am I doing now? And the sequestering, the true these ones which are dragging out the air and turning it into lime, I saw recently, and the dark carbon stuff that's going on about how they bring it into the bottom of the sea, and that's all really interesting stuff. That must be so that kind of gets you going as well. Yeah,
because it's like it's where there's cutting edge technology and it's sort of an unknown field almost. No one's really figured it out and the best way to do it. So
no. Couldn't we have one giant Briiv in the middle of my town?
Yeah,
I mean, it's funny, we were talking to some guys about that a little while ago, but yeah, Briiv doesn't help with the carbon capture, unfortunately.
No. So I suppose that's one step. That's definitely one step up. You're molecularizing at that point, presumably.
Yeah. Because gases just operate completely differently to dust particles, and this is something that I've had to explain to a few people who just automatically assume that Briiv is kicking out oxygen and it's doing like what plants do, kind of thing. But it's dust and particulate matter and the stuff that you breathe is different from gases and the bad gases and things.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I suppose it's a reasonable thing to consider. Is I've bunged a filter in which improves air quality, and air quality must include the gas. But actually, the gas stuff else would be filtering out oxygen at the same time, which wouldn't be good. I've got filtered out all your nitrogen out of the air, and now you've got a fully ignitable house. Brilliant. I also spotted that you've got a Red Dot Award. Now, what's that? I didn't look into it, so I'm completely unaware of Red Dot. Perhaps you could tell us about it.
Yeah, sure. So Red Dot is an international design award, and it's run by an international jury, and you submit your design, and they look at its function, they look at its design, and sort of overall sustainability and all these different factors, and then it's kind of a pass-fail kind of thing. But it won one early on this year, which was brilliant, really, for us, and it gives it a good bit of credibility that you've got a panel of industry experts there who also think that it's doing some good, and it's just a good piece of design. So.
Yeah, it's always something that's always been there, like the aiming towards ever since uni, hasn't it?
Yeah,
to win a Red Dot, like the ultimate.
Well, that's interesting, actually. I mean, are there any other awards that you like the sound of? I mean, they're probably one of the most well-respected ones, funnily enough, is the Queen's Award for Innovation and things like that. Have you thought about any awards like that?
Haven't.
Yeah, a company I used to work for has won a few Queen's Award. It's something we should absolutely look at.
Yeah, because from what I can see, it is as I said, I haven't seen it. What I've read up about it, it looks an amazing product, and it does look an amazing product. So if anybody hasn't gone and looked at a Briiv, do go to your site. We'll put links on the show pages, as I said before. So, are you ready for me to ask you some questions on fact or fake?
Yeah, let's do this.
Yeah. Sure. We'll try not to, not try seeking to damage reputations here. Nobody can know everything, So, is this statement a fact or a fake? Air pollution kills 400 people an hour, or 7 every minute, accounting for more than double the amount of people who die from malaria, tuberculosis, and AIDS combined each year. I'll give you that again, fact or fake. Air pollution kills 400 people every hour, or 7 every minute. That's not a comparison, that's an equivalent. Accounting for more people than die from malaria, tuberculosis, and AIDS. Fact or fake, guys?
I think that's a fact. I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
that's correct.
that sounds correct.
Yeah, it's a fake. And you're going to be horrified. It kills 800 people an hour. I halved the figures.
Yeah.
Every hour, every 13 minutes. Well, I went the other way on that one. So that's my calculations going wrong. Don't bode well, does it? Accounting for more than 3 times the amount of people who die from malaria, tuberculosis, and AIDS. Okay, I can understand why you didn't get that. How about this one? Fact or fake? In 2016, couldn't find any more recent facts than that. Household air pollution from cooking with polluting fuels and technologies caused an estimated 3.8 million deaths. That is, in air pollution from cooking with polluted fuels and technologies caused an estimated 3.8 million deaths. Fact or fake?
I know it causes a lot of health problems. Indoor cooking.
And this is worldwide.
Worldwide, yes. This is a WHO fact, or
Okay.
fact, depending on how you read it.
I've read a lot of these facts, but
Do you think
these numbers are.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've got them on the ropes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go
Fact.
fact.
You're correct. It is. The WHO World Health Organization suggests 7 million people a year die from air pollution related disorders, which is quite a fact, really. Okay, last one. It's one each. This is the decider. In the 15 countries that emit the most planet warming gases, so we're back to gases again, sorry about that, the cost of air pollution for public health is estimated at more than 1.5% of GDP. So it's just the top 15 planet warming gas producing countries. The suggestion is that the cost of air pollution on public health is 1.5% of the GDP of those countries.
Is that taking into account the damage it's doing in terms of global warming as well, or is that?
I think it's an analysis of the impact on the healthcare system in those 15 countries. Now, you're quite right. Air doesn't stay still, does it? So our very bad pollution in this country and the other 14 countries is probably killing a lot more people with GDP than our GDP shows. So, but is it 1.5%? Is that fact or fake?
I think it might be more.
Yeah, it's probably more than that, isn't it?
Ooh,
It's very damaging, so it could easily be more than that.
So you saying fake?
Fake, yeah.
Fake, yeah.
And they win.
Yes.
So in these 15 high emitting countries, 4% of the GDP is used in treating health related disorders. And in comparison, keeping global warming to the Paris Agreement temperature limits would probably require investing around 1% of global GDP. It's funny, isn't it? It's a business case that nobody would want to make. And they'd never try. I think it's almost impossible for them to go, well, we're spending a bucket load of cash over here keeping people alive because we're killing them with air pollution. If we invested a little bit of that in reducing air temperatures, we could actually perhaps reduce that quite considerably. Bit ironic.
Yeah. Quite
Well,
sad.
on a devastating defeat, I do like to win my fact or fakes, but you know your air quality, gentlemen. I wish you all the best with Briiv. I really do. Where is it? You did an Indiegogo. It's in production, and that I must admit I didn't track down the Indiegogo and have a look at it. So, what state is the Briiv in now? In ready for pre-order?
Yeah, it's still on. We've just extended the Indiegogo and doing pre-orders through their platform.
Okay, yeah.
We've had a lot of delays, unfortunately, this year with
COVID.
knock-on effect of the electronics industry and COVID. But we just try not to say that, we try not to make too many excuses for things. But so we're still just taking pre-orders, but we're getting very, very close to having product and sending it out to people. So.
Brilliant. Really, really excited to see the feedback when you get those out, and all the best with getting that Indiegogo to its completion, and it's already been very successful. So thank you very much for joining me on the Green Elephant Show.
Yeah, thanks. It's been fun.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
We really hope that you found this insight into another Better Business both informative and entertaining. So make sure you don't miss any of our other chats with other Better Businesses by subscribing to our podcast, available on all good providers, or on the Green Elephant YouTube channel. And please don't forget to spread the word with others. If you have any questions, comments or suggestions on the show, please do get in touch. You can email us studio@greenelephant.show or visit our website greenelephant.show or find us across social @greenelipod. Join us next time, and we hope you have a sustainable week.